Welcome back to Via the Source, where you can get news about the entire NFL and, of course, the Miami Dolphins. Fins up, here's Steven, your host.
This certainly isn't how I envisioned this or planned this, but I am going to retire. This is not an easy decision. Honestly, it's the hardest decision of my life, but it is the right decision for me.
What's up, guys? Today's date is August 25th. I'm Steven Masso, and as always, you're listening to Via the Source. Now, today's episode is, of course, going to be started off with the huge announcement of Andrew Luck's retirement. Other news that will be covered include Lamar Miller tearing his ACL. We'll be talking about Kyler Murray's performance yesterday, and we'll also be discussing some trade rumors with the Miami Dolphins and whether they are true or not.
For the last 4 years or so, I've been in this cycle of injury, pain, rehab, injury, pain, rehab. And it's been unceasing and unrelenting, both in season, and off season. And I felt stuck in it. And the only way I see out is to no longer play football. It's taken my joy of this game away.
So, to start it off, Andrew Luck announced his retirement basically out of the blue. It was an announcement that to me was unprecedented. I had never seen anything like it. It set the internet ablaze. ESPN's website crashed. Everybody on Twitter was talking about Andrew Luck's retirement. And why it is so unprecedented is because he retired while playing at an elite level right before the season. Right towards the end of preseason, he announced his retirement after having a very good season last year, after going to the playoffs, after being the comeback player of the year, having a team that many thought had a chance at a Super Bowl. I wouldn't have gone that far, but they look like a really solid team. And with an elite quarterback like Andrew Luck, anything could happen. So the fact that he retired like this out of nowhere was a shock to just basically every football fan. Now, to talk about Andrew Luck himself, Andrew Luck, I think, was one of the most likable people in the NFL. It was hard to find somebody who didn't like Andrew Luck. I think we'd all seen the clips of Andrew Luck being sacked and him saying great hit every time he was sacked to the defender. And things like that are just unheard of in the NFL. He was just such a likable person. On top of that, he is also a very intelligent person. So when he makes this announcement, know that this was a very well thought out plan for him. This isn't just some instinctive thing. You can tell that Andrew Luck put some thought into this. So during the press conference, you could tell by his tone that this was a man that exhausted all the options he had. He had just been taking such a beating physically, and it was really starting to affect him mentally, and that was one of the main themes, that mentally he was worn out, and on top of that, the toll that his body had taken was just becoming too much, and that was sucking the love out of the game for him, and that's when he decided to step away. So recently this season, Andrew Luck suffered a calf strain that had many questioning whether he would be able to start for the opening day. And he said if it wasn't for this calf strain, there may have been a possibility that he would be good to go, but that may have just kind of been a tipping point for him. Other injuries were, of course, that shoulder injury that just lingered for so many years, and there was so much doubt whether he would play again. It just became a huge, weird issue. There was the other injuries he had, the abdominal tear, and he also suffered a lacerated kidney. His offensive line for years was just really bad, but you never once heard him complain about the situation he was in, yet every NFL fan knew Andrew Luck was an elite quarterback in a very bad situation given his offensive line. He took a beating, he was injured so many times, and you never heard him put blame anywhere on his own team. Now, aside from the person, if we look at the player he was, coming out of college, I had never heard of a college prospect that was as high regarded as a guy like Andrew Luck. There was a whole suck for luck thing that many teams were striving for. He was just such a talent at such a young age that it was very unheard of a talent like this coming out of college. And he was able to translate to the NFL almost seamlessly. He was a 4-time Pro Bowler. He led the NFL in touchdown passes back in 2014. And then again, he was also the comeback player of the year just last season. So this is a retirement of a guy who's only 29 years old, retiring in his prime on a very good team. So it was just very unprecedented. And surprisingly, there are people that are knocking Andrew Luck for deciding to retire. One tweet even said that this is such a millennial thing to do, not wanting to rehab and retire instead, which is truly just one of the most ridiculous things that I've ever seen on the internet. Here's the guy who's taking a beating constantly over and over again. He doesn't owe anything to the fans to continue taking this beating. Another tweet said that he owes it to the season ticket holders. I don't understand the sense in that, to put your body through more and more of this pain to the point where it's affecting you mentally. This is a guy that has a lot of money. He's not going to have to deal with any struggles financially for the rest of his life. He's getting out of this painful career at the age of 29. He said that he wants to travel the world with his wife. It's hard for me to knock him for making this decision. And on top of that, it's not like football was strictly just a job for him. This was his sense of purpose. I think when anybody loses their sense of purpose, it is going to hurt him, and it's going to hurt Andrew Luck. You could tell by how he was speaking about it that he knows exactly what he's letting go of. So for people to say that Andrew Luck is just walking away from the game and he didn't want to go to rehab and it's just he's blowing off the team, that's just such a ridiculous argument to make. So I wish Andrew Luck the best at whatever he does next. Like I said, he's a very smart person, so I'm sure he'll find something else that he's great at. I wouldn't rule out the possibility of him returning to the NFL just because you could hear in his tone that he loves the sport of football so much. He loves being part of a team. You could tell that these guys that he was playing with, he truly feels that they're family and they're brothers to him. And the final note I'm going to leave you on is how he spoke about his longtime favorite receiver, T.Y. Hilton, because that connection was one of the greatest in my lifetime, at least. I'm only 24, but the connection between those two, though it was short, was a truly marvelous thing. The way he speaks about him almost made me shed a tear. It was really nice to hear. This is what he had to say about T.Y. Hilton.
T.Y. Hilton. I had more fun throwing the football to T.Y. than should be allowed, probably. When I was away in 2017 for the latter half of the season, I had to figure out why I wanted to come back and play football. And I boiled it simply down to the fact that I like throwing the ball to my friends, and I love throwing the ball to T.Y. Hilton. He's the best football player I've ever played with, and he's a better teammate than he is a football player.
Now, to continue with this Andrew Luck situation, now we have to look at the actual Colts team itself. What does this mean for the Colts team? Of course, the team was very solid. An elite quarterback puts them at a level where they can always compete for a Super Bowl. You remove Andrew Luck from that equation. You insert Jacoby Brissett as a starting quarterback. You have an entirely different outcome for a season. Now, Jacoby Brissett, as far as backups go, is probably one of the best backups in the NFL. I don't think the team is going to be absolutely miserable like a lot of people are thinking they will. Now, if Jacoby Brissett goes down, which is a possibility, then that is a different situation. Then the Colts could be one of the worst teams in the NFL. But with Jacoby Brissett, this is still probably around a 6-win team in my mind. I would put them around there. I don't think they're going to be absolutely terrible. I think if you're thinking fantasy football, this has very severe implications for the main receiver weapons like T.Y. Hilton and Devin Funchess. That, of course, goes down. Eric Ebron, who appeared to have a really nice connection with Andrew Luck, that will probably go down as well. And then Jack Doyle, who Andrew Luck loved to throw to for years, will also go down. There's just no one on this offense that's going to benefit from the fact you're losing an elite quarterback, aside from maybe Marlon Mack, who could get more touches. But T.Y. Hilton, according to Matthew Berry, was still getting a 20% target share from Jacoby Brissett. So don't treat T.Y. Hilton like he's absolutely useless now. T.Y. Hilton very much is an elite receiver, should be respected, has always been one of the quickest and most elite route runners in the NFL. Don't think he's useless now. Just know that his value goes down a little bit. Now,